Live. Adam slapping his own face. Hi, welcome to TFAQ, True Faith, Any Questions? My name is Charlotte. I'm joined by Adam and Ben. And my face looks like this because I'm so tired. I can't make my face look any better. And if you're listening on Patreon and not watching on YouTube, I look incredible. So that's what we'll leave this at. Thank you.
Charlotte, you don't have to apologize for your face.
I feel like I do. It's a very tired face.
Streets ahead of me and Ben already. It's absolutely fine. Don't worry about it.
No, don't. Thank you to our patrons who answered the call only put out today because I'm very disorganized. Thank you, Adam, for supporting me on that. Loads of questions, which I'm still popping into our comment section. But if you're watching live and you have a question for us, pop it in as well. Patrons come first because they pay us, and paying us gets you ahead in this world. But we will get to your questions too, so do ask them. Okay, we'll dive right in, and I'll get the other questions right up on screen. But John Paul Morrow, one of our long-standing patrons, says, what's your preferred lineup and formation when all the players are fit? Ha! And then he followed that up with, you are allowed to use wingers as fullbacks, midfielders as defenders, and useless Brazilians if you wish. So you've got John Paul Morrow's permission to do a Bruce and play everyone out of position if you want to. Adam, I'll go to you first, and I will crack on with getting some more questions on the screen.
That's fine. I think it is absolutely remarkable that Steve Bruce has never actually properly tried a 4-2-3-1. It's such a default formation. It's almost like the new 4-4-2. You know, when I was growing up, 4-4-2 throughout the 90s, that was the default. Sort of early 2000s, it was 4-3-3. Now it's 4-2-3-1. Yet, you know, we've got a pretty good starting 11.
Oh, you stopped yourself with really and then went back to pretty.
It's only because we've regressed. But, like, you know, on paper, 4-2-3-1, I think suits us, suits our squad depth, suits our better players. It means our best players play in their right positions. You're not convinced. So, I mean, I would go a 4-2-3-1 if you want me just to whack out an 11. I'd go. Is this like when all are fit now? Is it when everyone's fit?
Our players, not obviously people who don't aren't on our squad. Our 25.
I didn't want to omit anybody but I'll just do it as our strongest 11. I'd probably Dubravka goal. Dubravka goal. I wouldn't put Richie at left back. I'd put Lewis there. I'd probably go. At the minute, I'd probably go Fernandez, Cher, Manquillo at the back.
You missed out Hayden there. Hayden right there in the... No?
So
okay, go on.
In midfield, I would go a pairing of Hayden and Willock. Ahead of him, I'd go Almiron in the number 10, Wilson up top, Sam Maximan on the left, and... I'd probably put in Fraser on the right hand side as a starting. I've probably missed out somebody incredible there, but that's off the top of my head. That's probably what I would at least start to try, because we rarely play those four attackers on the same pitch at the same time, let alone in their correct positions. So for me, it would be all about losing the one man in defence extra that we don't think we need, because we just concede loads anyway. We're the second worst defence in the league already. We've been playing 5/6 there already. So I would we've got some good wingers. Let's utilise the wingers, and Lewis and Manquillo can do some good overlaps. Willer can drive from deep, carrying the ball between defence and attack. Almiron looked brilliant when he was in the number 10, when we had that sketchy split striker formation that I don't think worked, but at least it was getting towards what I think we should be. But people in the right positions, man, honestly, it make the world a difference. That's probably my answer. Shelby, he's an incredible player. I've defended Shelby a lot. I just don't think. I think he even for his own sake, probably needs to be dropped, because if you want to see the best of him, he needs to push himself. We need competition in there, and I would say Hayden will patrol, and Willock can be the box to box, and then Miggy will drop in when he needs to. But I think Miggy needs to be in that central berth just behind Wilson, because I think we saw the very, very best of Miggy linking up with Wilson, certainly in that Everton game, that ill-fated Everton game that made us play that awful formation for about 9 extra fixtures, and that didn't end well. But yeah, that's my answer anyway.
Yeah, I don't think I would. Although, I'm quite a big critic of John Joe Shelby. But the 2 games that he played this season, he was actually one of the better players on the pitch. But that doesn't really say much. And you want to think about the partnerships on the pitch as well, and how you're lining up. And
I've intentionally left out Lascelles as well, because I wouldn't class him as two of our. And although Cher has his moments, I still think that what he brings, Fede Fernandez is your out and out, solid, dependable centre back. And I think Cher, because I'm not having Shelby in there, I need Cher in there to do the distribution, to bring the ball out a bit, to knock it a few yards to Hayden or Willock to pick up. But yeah, I think they would work fairly well. I know people might think that Cher wouldn't work in a back two, but that's what it's all about, debate.
Can you hear me?
Your face is paused, but yes.
You've all paused. My computer's completely frozen, but I can hear you. Ben, will you riff on that for me while I fix my computer, please? Maybe not.
Can't hear you, Ben.
Maybe not. Adam, you're going to have to take the reins here.
Everyone's left. I'm just on my own. I haven't got the questions in front of us. If we got them, I'll shove up another question. Right, should we talk about Eddie Howe? That's been A2 says, hi guys, what do we make of the Eddie Howe rumours? His odds in the bookies went from 6 to 1 odds on favourite now, so someone knows something we don't. I'd take a corpse over Bruce Mine. No, I mean, I wouldn't go that far. And I'm not the biggest supporter of Steve Bruce. But Eddie Howe is a manager that I've admired. I know it didn't really go well from at the end for Bournemouth. Lots of people saying he stayed there too long. I don't really know the story behind it, to be honest, too much. I just saw, when I see him talk about football, he seems to just understand it. He seems to know exactly what he wants to try. I've seen these clips where there's an insight in his tactics and what he would do. He just he has an answer for everything. He knows what he's talking about. And I think that even that in itself is going to be an upgrade, because Bruce, I don't think, does know what he's talking. I think when Bruce wins a game, I don't think he knows why particularly, and therefore we can't really then build upon that, because we don't really know why it's happened. And if we lose, he doesn't really know why it's happened, so he can't improve on it. I just think with Bruce, it's just a dead end. And I think at least with Eddie Howe, he's got some good Premier League experience. We're not in a position to really attract bigger names, but I think Eddie Howe is a solid name in the Premier League, and she's back.
I'm so sorry.
So I would 100% take Eddie Howe. If those rumours are true and it happens, I wouldn't be disappointed at all. Eddie Howe has a philosophy, and he seems to have some intelligence when he's talking about football. He seems, like I say, to grasp what happens and why it happens and what he wants to achieve and how he might set out to achieve that. If he doesn't get it right, you at least think he's going to explore other avenues and probably isn't going to go on holiday to Portugal in the middle of a crisis.
Can you hear me?
I can. You're back.
Okay, I'm rebooting my computer. I apologize. So I'm on my phone. I apologize, everybody who's for that. I don't know where the hell Ben's gone. Adam, I'm starting to think this was something that you have planned all along, just so that you could have the entire throne.
Welcome to the Adam Show. I'm determined to make the A in TFAQ stand for Adam.
True Faith Adam questions. All right. So really interesting question, but I'm gonna jump. I wonder if this is gonna work. Bring me in. Oh look, I'm in the background. Oh God. Okay. I'm here now.
back.
Oh
He's
my
back.
God, technical difficulties. And Ben's in the background too, I can see. Right, okay. We're back in the game.
We're back as a front three.
I do apologize, everybody. God, what a day. You can see why my face looks like this. Does Freddie Woodman have a future at the club? This was a question that came in from Jack Pierce, I think, who's one of our patrons. To me, no. Ben, does your microphone work? No, it does not. No, it does not. Okay.
I'll take it for now. I'll take it for now.
A nod or a head shake. Does Freddie Woodman have a future at the club? You think he does? You think Freddie Woodman has it? Oh, yes, it is.
Back. Right, go on, Ben.
Right. Sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so I think he must do. He's still a young keeper. He's had a really good couple of seasons. Obviously at lower level, but you're not going to see the best of Freddie Woodman for a few years yet. Let's not forget he's still young. I think he's early 20s. I think he might have only just turned 20. So
no, I think he's
he's not.
He's a bit older than that, is he?
He's about 24, isn't he?
Yeah,
24. Is he? Flip neck. But anyway, that's here nor there. That's here nor there. He's still young in goalkeeper years. Anyway, is the point. And as I say, he's forged a pretty decent career so far in the lower levels. If you'd have said to me a few years ago, Carl Darlow would be good enough for the Premier League, I would have said no chance. And yet he's come in and been a brilliant understudy for Dubravka where needed to be. I just think it's one of those things. He's probably he's basically been pushed into the firing line a bit this season because of the injuries and obviously Darlow's situation with COVID. But I'm not gonna write Woodman off just because he's had made a couple of mistakes. And to be fair, obviously it was the Man U game kind of where he got shown up a bit. But they weren't glaring errors. That they're not the type of errors consider. I mean, when you look back at when Jack Hannock played for the first team, he made some really, really glaring errors, and you could just tell he didn't have anything about him. Is he flipping neck? There you go, Dean Henderson. But
that was on screen. Graham Harrison wrote Freddie Woodman is the same age as
same age as Dean Henderson. But I mean, yeah, I still think though you can't. I mean, the reality is Henderson isn't starting for Man U at the minute, is he? And I don't think anyone will be writing him off. So yeah, I think Woodman's has got a future. It's just he's obviously not up to the level of Dubravka at the minute, but Dubravka is one of the top keepers in the league in my opinion. So I think he's still got time to develop, and more exposure in this environment is only going to be a good thing for him.
The problem I've got is that he may not be. Sorry, Adam. He's not up to Dubravka's standard, but he's also not up to Darlow's standard. And so, how is he going to get this exposure?
This is it for me. Because what we never have at this club is a plan for young players. Look at Matty Longstaff, for example. Why was he sat here for a year last season if he was just going to go out on loan this season anyway? Why was he not out on loan in the Championship last year already, just getting game time, developing himself? Because we don't have a plan. Everything is just like short term. What's happening this week? We never think ahead. With Woodman, I think there's been obviously an unfortunate injury crisis with keepers, which has forced us to name the 4 keeper. It's all just a bit messy. I don't know why Gillespie's here, if Woodman's here as well. That just seems like poor planning as well. I think obviously Woodman was going to go out on loan again. Darlow's still here. Was Darlow nearly going to be sold? Maybe. We don't know. I think this season was probably going to be Woodman out on loan again. Darlow at the end of the season, ship Darlow off. Woodman comes in at number 2. That would make more sense to me. But I would counter a couple of things that you said there, Ben, about, and I'm not blaming the lad. It's just he was thrown in at the deep end, and he's doing the best he can. He's obviously got talent, and I back him, and I'd love him to become good. But I think a few of the goals that we've conceded have been direct errors from Freddie Woodman, and I think he would hold his hands up. Said certainly Man United, West Ham. I saw a couple that I think that Antonio won the 4th. He hit it very hard, but if you see where it goes in, it goes right past Woodman's side. I mean, it's right there. You shouldn't really be conceding that. The couple of Man United ones where the second Ronaldo one went right through him, the first one he spills. There are errors there, and it happens, and that's keepers just need game time. That you put in a kind of a relatively rookie keeper. You have to expect that. What needs to happen is the defense needs to step up and protect him more. But obviously our defense is playing awfully, so not the best environment for Freddie Woodman to come in and try and stake a claim, or But I think he did. I think he did show some positive signs.
You've hit the nail on the head there, though, Adam. Is that the situation is not as it was as they planned. As you say, he shouldn't have even been here. He would have been. There's no doubt he would have been on loan, and that's Gillespie was in to be a third choice that shouldn't be getting a look in. And obviously they wouldn't have foreseen Darlow and Dubravka both being out at the same time. But as you've hit the nail on the head there, he's come into a defence where they're all over the shop. Nobody really knows what they're doing in terms of, we've had Hayden playing as a centre back against Man U, for God's sake. Like, it's not a settled back four or back five or whatever. So he's already onto an issue there anyway. And the biggest thing with keepers is about confidence. I mean, you say the mistakes, but I mean, I remember Darlow making some big mistakes kind of at the time when Dubravka was coming back fit last year, and Darlow had played brilliantly up to that point, and then he made a couple of mistakes and ended up getting dropped. And likewise Dubravka, Dubravka's cost us.
Sorry, and then Steve Bruce threw him under the bus.
Yeah.
It was it Man U?
I think I can't remember who it was, but
Steve Bruce was obviously the keeper needs looking at.
But the reality is, I mean, Dubravka's cost us plenty of games as well. So I'm not too concerned about the mistakes. As I say, there weren't glaring mistakes in terms of the Man U one where he kind of fumbled it across. Okay, it's a key point in the game, and you can talk about it, but it took a deflection, or it came through a defender. That could happen to anybody. And as I say, I just think it's probably a season early for what the plan was to bring him in. He shouldn't have been playing, and he's made some decent saves, I think, while he's been in. I think the plan should be, now Dubravka and Darlow are fit, should be to try and ship him out in January, and let him go out and play in the Championship for hopefully a contender or someone, and get more first team sort of game time, or even, I mean, well, I was going to say a lower Premier League team, but that would be us, to be fair. But yeah, but he needs more game time. But I think it is a big confidence thing in terms of if he was playing in a more settled side where he wasn't getting peppered and getting kind of the work that he's been getting at Newcastle. I mean, let's be honest, Newcastle are a sham of a side at the minute. They're all over the shop. So I don't expect anybody to come in and be successful in that environment.
And it's not just him, obviously. I'm not just vilifying Freddie Woodman, but I have to point out that a couple of the mistakes were his. He'd probably say the same. But when you look at some of our leaders, like Jamal Lascelles and Matt Ritchie, and both of them have been culpable for quite a number of goals collectively, almost single-handedly. So, both were involved in that Rafinha goal where Ritchie just backed off. Lascelles just didn't do anything and let the ball go past him. Both of them conspired for that to go into the back of the net. And, so when the kind of senior leaders of the team are kind of failing as well, that's, like you said, rightly said, Ben, that's not going to instill confidence into a goalkeeper who's, trying to step up to the Premier League level. And it's not the most settled defence to do that with. But yeah,
not at all. Okay, we talked Freddie Woodman. We've got a couple of questions come in which are interesting from people watching. Feel free to type your questions and comments, opine on what we're saying, even if you don't want to ask a question. But I'll just ask a quick one from our Patreon. I'll pepper in one from you guys, and then we'll head right on back to Patreon questions. I feel insane tonight. I'm so tired. Question from Patrick F. Which Newcastle goal do you wish you'd scored yourself, and why? I'm going to go first because I want to go first. And mine would be the fourth goal against Arsenal by Tiote. Just, can you imagine the feeling? And the legendary status you'd have forever. Obviously there's a million Shearer goals that were just fucking unbelievable. There's Shola goals against Sunderland. Maybe we want to pick those, but that is just, for me personally, because I was there and it was one of the most amazing games, and I was desperate to leave at halftime and my dad wouldn't let us. That one. What about you, Ben?
That is an amazing choice, actually. I think I'd have to go for one of the Robert ones.
Rich, I was just.
there was a goal he scored against Liverpool.
The tight angle
years
one.
ago. Yeah, that was just a ridiculous hit. And just I just think any of Robert's goals were all absolutely sick. So just pick anyone you like. But I think they were pretty memorable.
I think I'd have to go for like a volley. Like I'm right-footed, but I could always I can always leather a ball with my left foot for whatever reason. So it's kind of torn between the volley that Robert scored against Spurs in that 4-0, where he's got a brace. Two of them were unbelievable. Shearer in the semi-finals, a great shout, because it's to get through to a cup final. Oh, that was it was an extra time as well. That's a really good shout. My favourite goal is the Shearer volley against Everton to make it like 1-1. Like that is my favourite goal. I was there. I was right behind it as well. That's probably, as a striker, I think, to score like a volley of that perfection, that level of perfection, in a game that we were losing, it has to be that Shearer one. But that FA Cup final Shearer one.
We've got some other great comments. Dan Wales watching says, "Got to be Ben Arthur versus Bolton. Moses parting the Red Sea."
I don't have the mobility.
I don't think you understand the assignment. I wish I could put the clips in. I wish I could find them and put them in. Ketchor says, "Imagine not picking Jarme against Brighton." I mean,
that's a great goal. That was a great goal.
Alex will be upset with us.
Haphazard. Yeah.
Look at these. Oh my God, I'm going to have to watch these after we do this tonight. Supermac in the FA Cup semi against Burnley. Yeah, taking it old school. And then Bellamy versus Feyenoord.
Okay, so the moment was great of Bellamy, but that finish was really shit. Like Dyer's finish was shit.
Oh dear.
Bellamy's finish was that's essentially a goalkeeping own goal. Surely that wasn't on target, was it?
Maybe that's one more your ability, Adam. Maybe that's what you're suggesting.
Yeah, no, mine's more of a kind of Amiobi bundling in off my arse kind of, Amiobi
right.
at the new camp. Imagine.
Okay, we move on, but keep putting yours in. I love these, and I'm gonna have a little trip down memory lane later. Graham says, "But the moment, Adam."
Yeah, the moment. But it's like, for me, while we're on it, goal of the month, goals of the season comment. I don't think a goal of the month or season should ever be. The keeper should never get a touch on a goal of the month. It needs to just go straight. I think it always takes the shine off a good goal when the keeper just gets fingers to it or a palm to it, or they can't. A clean goal is I think just sets it apart.
Yeah.
But the moment was good. Yes, fair enough.
Wieldy agrees with me. Toyota against Arsenal. Mark Walsh saying Keegan at home to QPR. Again, taking it back to the old school, Mark. I love it.
The atmosphere would have been unbelievable.
Yeah, it would have been class. Okay, let's move back to a patron question. Anthony Edmonds, very long-standing patron. Man, I'm never sure if I get his name right, but I think I have. At least he's never complained. How many games has Bruce got left? Will he make it to 100? I believe he is on 94. Presuming he has no wins, I think he will go after the Spurs game, which is, of course, Spurs home game is 17th of October. So we've got about half a month until that game. Watford and Wolves in between that. Ben, how many games has he got left?
It's a tough one to answer, because although he keeps talking about not walking away, I kind of feel like he's starting to talk more of his language. Seems to be he's getting more and more frustrated with the situation. He's obviously hurting that the fans have been vocal against him and things like that. I don't think the club will sack him anytime soon, because that would require them to pay out, and I just don't think they're going to do it. So I think I think it'll be down to if Bruce walks or not. And he's been saying for a long time he's not a quitter. So let's see if he's a man of his word. But I think he will quit eventually. I think that's what it's going to come down to. But I think he would see it. I think he'll probably, if he's watching this and he sees that, I think he'll want to prove a few people wrong. And I think he will make it to 100 games, which is a disgrace. you shouldn't do, but just that's this club.
I think he's got like 16 more games before health reasons mean he has to leave the post. and that'll be the reason. He's not quitting, but unfortunately his health means he cannot.
Are you suggesting that the club staff are going to be like injecting his chocolate eclairs with like extra lard or something? Go on, Steve, have another one.
No, that's just an unfortunate sort of heart attack waiting to happen. I'm not suggesting anything like that. I'm saying maybe he's you know, maybe he's tired and.
Well, you would be. I just think it's best for all. He can't be enjoying it anymore. Like if there's this big grand, you know, I want to prove myself, and quitting would mean a failure. Like you've already failed, pal. Like just cut your losses. Like it's better just to not like save yourself the inevitable criticism for your like managerial ability, and just go and just spend some time with your family. Take Alex fishing or something. I don't know. Just do what. Do you know what I mean?
Alex goes fishing on Twitter every day.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to take him fishing.
But the thing is, I think he's on. You know, how many games has he got? He's on minus games for me. Like Sheffield United away. Like I don't know how he survived that. I don't know how he survived any of it. We know the answer is Mike Ashley, and it was a dereliction of duty of the club. But because we're back at this, I think. Even though Mike Ashley doesn't care, I still think he will care a bit more because there's crowds that are directly booing the manager and chanting and calling him SMB and all this kind of stuff. Like, it's only ever going to get worse.
Yeah.
But you've got to think that a lot of decisions in the Premier League, by maybe normal Premier League clubs, maybe not ours, they're usually punctuated by international breaks, aren't they?
He goes to Portugal.
Yeah. So we've got, like you say, we've got Watford Wolves, and then we've got a 2-week break. And we think, imagine going into that Spurs game with the new man in charge, you know, just a bit of a lift around the club. Ashley's still there, of course, but with Bruce out the dugout and somebody new in, it just might give us the bounce that we need to just kind of kick on because if he's going to continue to play a formation that doesn't work and continue to ship goals, we're just going to stay in the relegation zone. And the longer it goes on, worse it'll get. He just needs to. I'd like to say 2 because it'll take us up the international break, but no. He'd probably be here after Christmas.
God! What a dreadful festive season that will be.
Unfortunately.
Question from Danielle Marshall. Interesting one. Can you consider fans that attend matches are complicit in the ruin of NUFC? Even if you choose to use the excuse that a boycott would not get rid of Mike Ashley, the obvious principle is that by attending, you accept what is happening. Seems to be hypocritical to criticize Steve Bruce for his complicity. Well, I'm not taking £2 million a year off Mike Ashley to like sort of keep things ticking along, which I think is the complicity that we object to. I don't think that by attending you accept what's happening. I don't agree with that principle. I can see that argument, but I don't agree with it. Adam, you definitely don't.
Yeah, you could almost argue. I mean, I've been called a scab before from going to the Arsenal the first game.
Yeah, but you did look like a scab, mate. I said it. I had full backing from everybody.
Yeah.
When I called you that,
fair enough. But like, it's just this idea that like, why should I let somebody like Mike Ashley, who is poison to our club, why should I let him dictate if I can even go along and watch a football match or not? That's mental. Like that, if people don't want to go because of him, that's absolutely fine. Everyone can do what they want, but it's not complicity. It's because you don't. It's still your club that you support. Just because Ashley's got the keys at the minute doesn't make it his club in any way. So it's not complicity. It's just you. Maybe there'll be plenty who go along to the stadium now who don't give a shit about politics and don't give a shit about the boardroom. Nobody,
Yeah.
people just want to go and watch the football with their kids or by themselves or do what they've done every other Saturday for the last 30 years. And that's fine as well. Like there's so many reasons people go and don't go to the game. People should just let people choose. It does just because one way or another. Don't assume that you are suddenly a Mike Ashley apologist because you go through the turnstiles. Not a chance. How weak do you have to be if that's the only way that you can view that situation? That means you supporting your club means you like my guy. No, I'll support the club long after he's gone, and I supported long before he was there. I love the club. I just don't know who's running it.
That's the key, isn't it? Is that you support Newcastle for what you see it as. It's not Mike Ashley's club; it's our club. And I think I appreciate, obviously, there's a lot of people have stopped going for various reasons, but majority of them are Ashley related, and there might be people that think people going to the club kind of it allows him to justify that he can get away with what he's doing. But I wouldn't agree with that in terms of, I think you see at the minute there's still a lot of anti Ashley chants at the games, and obviously the fans that are going can still have some kind of impact on the run of the club in terms of the pressure that they enforce. It's a difficult one, and I understand where kind of Daniel's coming from, but yeah, I agree. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a kind of that we're at fault for justifying Mike Ashley still being here. I mean, the reality is, yeah, it is, and that's the thing. I don't think it's as clean cut to just say everybody go to the game is a Mike Ashley supporter, because they're clearly not. But equally, there could be some arguments where maybe that has sort of allowed him to get away with some things because people are going. But I mean, I go to the game because it's my club. I enjoy watching Newcastle, although not much these days. But I used to enjoy watching them. But it's much bigger. There's bigger things at stake here, and it's more not letting them win, basically. But at the same time, and I think that's the thing. It's an individual decision for people to make up. Do they still want to go or not? Obviously, I know people that don't go anymore. I mean, Size stopped going at the games, who I used to sit with. So some people have made that decision. But at the same time, I wouldn't criticise anyone that decides to still be going, because they'll have their own reasons for going.
But then this is it. I think this is kind of indicative of how social media is, which is a microcosm of the fan base, as we know. It's a very, very small percentage of it. And yeah, like, imagine there wasn't any social media. There wouldn't even be a question of somebody like criticizing a fellow fan for going to a football match of a club that you both support. Like, it just wouldn't even happen, would it? And I think it's the fact that there is like, you should do this, therefore you're not. If you do that, then that means this. Like, everyone supports Newcastle in different ways and different intensities. Some people are just it's their life, and they eat, sleep, and breathe it. Some people just, I'll tune in for the games on the radio. I'll catch the highlights on the match, and that's fine as well. Like, however you want to support the club, you're absolutely welcome.
Some people kiss themselves by making weekly content about it.
Yeah, that's a bigger commitment. That's worse. But yeah, like, what I would just, you do you, people. You do what you
do you, honey.
Everybody's relationship with Newcastle United Football Club is different and is unique, is their own, and that's okay.
Agreed. There's no judgment here. Not much anyway. Okay, kind of ties into that. Question from Kieran on our Patreon. Do you think that Newcastle fans, this is a long one, there were loads of parts to it. It's going to come up on screen and it's not going to look pretty because they haven't made it look pretty. But Kieran says, do you think that Newcastle fans missed an opportunity last Friday, that was at the Leeds game at St James's Park, to be even more vocal and almost constant in their chants, etc., to illustrate their discontent towards the manager over the 90 minutes and make it a Pardew versus Cardiff or McLaren versus Bournemouth type of atmosphere, with the game being live on Sky, and possibly force the hand of the club to an extent? And on the other side of that coin, in a roundabout way, do Newcastle fans come out of it looking better for backing the team for the most part and not creating an atmosphere like Pardew or McLaren got? Bit more you can be guaranteed that on Sky or TalkSport, Newcastle fans would have gotten blamed if we had lost the game and given Bruce a hard time. It would be spun like like the fans created a terrible environment that the players couldn't possibly play in. We can't win, so if they're not chanting much that they don't like Steve Bruce, then they're obviously fine with everything and complicit. Or if they do and we lose, it's our fault that we lose, because we haven't supported the team. I think, I was at the Leeds game, and I think, and we talked about it a bit in the free podcast afterwards, that there was immediate Bruce out chance, and there were Ashley out chance, much more towards the end, so the last ones. But there was also a very clear, as soon as we got the ball, as soon as we made a run at the goal, support for the squad. So I think that there was quite a nice balance of, we don't like the manager and we want a better manager, but we support the squad. So I think more discontent will come if we continue to play the way that we are playing, and the formation that we are playing, and the players in the positions that they're playing. But I think it was a good illustration Friday night of where we are as a fan base, supporting the squad but not supporting the manager. Ben, what do you think?
You're gonna have to put the question back on screen, I think. I agree. I think I know there was. I would say there was a lot of anti-Bruce sentiment, but as you say, I think the fan base got it right in terms of, we were still there for an important game against Leeds, who were not in great form. It was a big game. We haven't won a game yet. It was a game really we needed to win, and I think the anti-Bruce sentiment, while it's necessary, and obviously we want rid of him, he was still there to support the team. And as I say, I think the players, you just look at them, they're bereft of confidence at times, and we're missing Wilson in terms of potential best goal scoring threat. So the fan base needs to get on the players' side and kind of encourage them. As I agree with what you said, I think it was the right balance in terms of anti-Bruce Ashley sentiment, but also supporting the players, but as well getting on the players' backs. There was times where, obviously, that first kind of half an hour of the game where Leeds just ran a bit riot. There was frustration there, and I think the players need to hear that as well. But yeah, so I think it was. I agree. I think it kind of depends in terms of the media side of the question. They're going to have their own agenda, and they're going to want to portray whatever that agenda is. And if that's to bash on Newcastle fans, then they could have quite easily sort of focused on kind of the anti-Bruce sentiment, and that maybe be a reason for why we drew the game. But we know, having watched the game, that didn't have any impact on the outcome. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, I wouldn't be worried about what any media outlet does anyway. At the end of the day, I suppose for Sky's point of view, they tried to give Newcastle fans a voice before the game, which I suppose is the first time they've done that. So I suppose give them a little bit of credit for that kind of that part of the show. But ultimately, it's not something I particularly worry about what anybody's kind of saying about us.
Yeah.
And the other thing with kind of like these kind of shows of, it's all very well saying in hindsight, but like all this stuff has to sort of happen organically and spontaneously, I think, to have any, I've taken part in protests around the ground, and, organized stuff doesn't really work because not everyone's on social media. So like the word doesn't really get around. It has to be a feeling. So if there's a perception that there wasn't enough chanting of Bruce out, it was only because I guess the circumstance the opportunity wasn't there, the feeling wasn't there. It has to be a collective voice, remember, and it has to be a lot of people for it to actually make an impact, make a dent. So there's a lot of factors in play when there's a live match going on, because if suddenly you're on the attack, your focus is going to go on. So you're suddenly going to go back into the game, and so it almost has to be. Say if we went an early goal down. If we'd gone a second goal down very early on as well, imagine we're 3-0 down by half time. That is when you imagine the toxicity would hit a level that It has to be in the moment. It has to be. It's something that you can't really synthesize. You can't synthesize it. It has to. Remember when West Ham fans sort of stormed on the pitch and started chanting at the board, up at the board seats, and that was like, wow, like they're really going for it. I mean, no, I don't know if that was planned. Maybe it was, but it didn't. It felt very spontaneous and in the moment. Mm-hmm. And look at West Ham since that moment. They've been flying. They were listened to. But I think a lot of it is we could shout Bruce out, but we don't have a regular owner. We don't have an owner who listens to us. So half the people in that stadium would have been like, we could shout. What's the point? It's wasted effort. What's the point? It's futility. It's not going to get heard. Like it doesn't matter what fans do or don't do, because I don't think Mike Ashley reacts too much to what we do anyway. It's more about what shareholders say or what the media are saying about him that he kind of suddenly jerks into action. I don't think what we do massively comes into his decision. If anything, he'll probably not make decisions in spite of what we prefer. So like, I think we're very unique in that sense that we've usually with these things there's a build up of maybe a year and a half, some bad months that hits boiling point. But with Newcastle, it's just been this really long malaise that's gone on. Everyone's exhausted from it, So there isn't the potency, I guess, of other growth that fans have in other clubs.
I'm sorry, I started talking about rolling boils and ruined everything.
No, I plowed on.
No, you were absolutely right. It doesn't have that kind of pressure cooker feeling, does it? It's just this constant.
It's eye rolling. It's shrug of the shoulders. It's apathy. Everyone's just been gone. Everyone's gone through the motions of this so many times before. It's exhausting. It's repetitive. It's just, it loses its,
Yeah. Gil said he jerks into action. Not a great thought, Reed Bruce. Well, Steve Bruce is the man who keeps telling us that he's going to keep bashing away. So, sorry, but he's already put that image into your head. Let me lighten the moment. Brian M says, if you had to think of a cartoon character who reminds you of Steve Bruce, who would it be? For me, it would be Peter Griffin. Family Guy. Do you know Peter Griffin?
Yeah. No. Like, he's kind of haphazard in a way, isn't he? Sort of bumbles through. He says ridiculous things, probably without thinking. He has crazy schemes, again, probably without thinking.
Feels sorry for himself a lot. Ben, cartoon character who reminds you of Steve Bruce?
Maybe someone like Elmer Fudd.
Elmer Fudd.
Just with a useless gun, always looking for that. I can imagine him wearing a little hat.
You can imagine him wearing a little hat.
And a shooting gun, yeah.
Adam, cartoon character.
Yeah, man.
Hard to be Elmer Fudd, I have to say.
I don't think I can beat either of you. That's such a good show.
So funny. Go on, try.
I don't know. Maybe one of the wacky walrus things off Alice in Wonderland or something abstract, something really, really batshit crazy that makes no sense at all, yet makes total sense. That? Look at him. I'm hunting rabbits. It's good.
That's him. Stevie Bruce.
Gil says Cartman.
Cartman's clever and scheming. No chance.
Cartman's too acerbic, I think.
Cartman's too sharp.
You think?
It's clever.
The Technodrome from the Turtles. What is that?
Yeah, Daniel, we need more info on that.
You're going to have to look that one up.
What does that? Gil's doubling down, saying Cartman has sulky, non-liked rotund cabbage.
Is the Technodrome? So what's the thing? The little brain thing. Is it Krang? Possibly. What is the guy? So Krang sort of sits in the belly of a kind of.
Is that what she means? Yeah, is that
Daniel's a boy. I think.
Daniele, it could be Italian.
Oh,
no, he's been on here before.
Okay, fair enough.
Sorry.
He added an E because there was another Danielle Marshall on, so we needed to differentiate.
Daniele Marshall.
Daniele. Let's get back to it. Add your cartoon characters, Steve Bruce cartoon characters below. Below. Because we've done 45 minutes, so we are gonna crack on and do another 10-ish.
In fairness, according to the wonderful cartoonist David Squires, Bruce is already a cartoon character in his own right.
That is true. Okay. Next question.
Crying is Johnny.
Crying is Johnny. Very good. Okay, sorry. Okay, Liam S says, would you take Graham Jones over Bruce? I reckon that's exactly what will happen if Bruce goes. At least Jones might show some manners when questioned by pundits and journalists. Well, remember, Bruce does actually show manners when questioned by pundits because they're his busy mates, but not journalists. He hates those. Personally, as an interim, yes, I would take Graham Jones over Bruce. I think that there would be a natural bounce because that is often what happens when a new manager comes in and implements like a new training regime. By all accounts, the training is all over the place. Late starts, that sort of thing. I think a little bit more discipline is probably would be injected into the squad. So yes, but I remain to be convinced by him as a long-term option for us. And also, I would like to point out, like, we all hailed Graham Jones coming in January, and we're like, well, our turnaround in fortune is due to him. He's still on the coaching staff and things haven't been good. I don't know if he's just been ignored or whatever, but it's not working. Like, whatever it is not working. So yeah, interim because of that natural sort of change, but remain to be convinced.
It's a different dynamic though, isn't it? When you're a coach and to being a manager. I mean, as a manager, there's a hell of a lot more responsibility in terms of you've got to come and face the media. You've got to do. He's probably got to deal with kind of player discipline as a manager, as opposed to as a coach. He can probably. I mean, we've seen he's had a fallout with Gale in the week. I know Bruce falls out with players all the time as well, but you can probably get away with stuff like that more as a coach than you can as the manager. Like as the manager, you're supposed to kind of be above all that and kind of try and sort of manage the squad to make sure everyone's on sort of the same wavelength. I think, I mean, undoubtedly be better than Bruce, like 100%. Even if he wasn't successful, I think would still be able to set up a team up better than Bruce can. But I don't think he's the answer. I mean, if the question is just, would you rather Jones over Bruce? Then yes, I would.
Yeah.
But we know, I mean, he didn't do great things at Luton. Obviously, we've one of our friends, Gaz, as a Luton fan, kind of didn't have much good things to say about him when he first came to Newcastle. He failed pretty spectacularly with that Luton team. So from his own sort of managing experience, he hasn't got a great CV. But as a coach, he's the fact he's been picked up by Southgate to go and work with England squad is obviously is obviously a good thing for him. But
and the Martin he's worked with him.
Yeah, exactly. So he's obviously a good coach, but that doesn't necessarily always. I mean, McLaren was meant to be a great coach. Do you know what I mean? He was meant to be a key cog in that Man United team, and yet as a manager, he's pretty much failed. Well, in England anyway. So I think it's just as the answer, as I say, yes, I would take him over Bruce, but I don't think I wouldn't say Bruce is going to be. Sorry, I wouldn't say Jones will be the answer to any sort of sustained success or anything.
I totally echo what Ben said there. I think he's clearly a very talented coach, but that does not necessarily, like you say, make a good manager. And we are a Premier League club. We should have a Premier League quality manager in that role, steering the ship. And if Jones can contribute to that in a positive way, great. But I think we shouldn't have coach promoted because it's too risky. It's far too risky. Like we're going to be relegated now with a guy who's managed for a long time. Like that's how it feels at the moment. So to get somebody who is much more of a rookie coming in, like it's not his bread and butter. Coaching is bread and butter. It is a different job. And I think it would be unfair to put him in there. And I don't necessarily say it might turn out well. It's far too much of a risk.
Yeah, and I kind of agree. Stephen King here, just before I get to Keith's comment there. Stephen King says
the Stephen King.
No, this is a different Stephen King, one of our long-standing viewers, Stephen King,
we're living through our own horror at the moment, though, aren't we? Yeah.
We don't need a horror author.
Horror is most like the Newcastle United club craze.
Stephen says the latest Twitter rumors.
It's got to be Misery, isn't it? Steve Bruce is the woman with the long hair.
Because even in Misery, there was ankle injuries, wasn't there? There was. Works.
Anyway, I won't entertain this because Stephen's a long-standing viewer of my show from last season and keeps asking about it. And really, somebody asked before what the difference is between TFAQ and Charlotte's show. Not much. I just haven't put my name on this one, and it's less frequent and all of that stuff. But he says latest Twitter rumors of Charlie talking to Bruce about Severance and Eddie Howe lined up. Adam did an impromptu monologue earlier about Eddie Howe and whether or not we take him and what we think that would look like, because Ben and I both got kicked off the live. So
I think we got away with it.
So scroll back and have a little look. But I didn't want you to think we were ignoring you. Keith Roll says, I think a lot of NUFC's bad form, and it's not going to surprise anyone to hear that I agree, is down to missing Dubravka as goalkeeper and his influence at the back.
Behave, Charlotte.
A lot of NUFC's strong finish last season was down to his return, as well as Willock, Wilson, and ASM. Yes, I agree. I miss him so much. He's back in training, though. Although, did people see the images yesterday of Willock with a boot on his foot? One of those, like, sprained ankle boots? That is terrifying. Not terrifying. That's the wrong word.
Was it? Is it an injury, or was it just a sort of kind of a fashion?
It was a tackle. There was a tackle where almost his foot got crushed under and maybe bent a funny way. So maybe it was just a precautionary thing.
I'm choosing to believe it's fashion, actually, Ben.
Yeah.
I think it is a fashion choice. He's
got a new deal with the latest moon boot manufacturer.
The latest moon boot manufacturer, as if there's just a new one every year. Just somebody else making moon boots.
Moonwalkers.
Our moon boots partners this season are.
But yes, I do agree. I think Dubravka is integral to our side. I think. Not only is he an excellent goalkeeper, Ben said earlier that he's one of the best goalkeepers in the league, in his opinion, but that organizational skill that the day that I fell in love with Martin Dubravka was, I actually can't remember the game, but I was sat in the East Stand quite close to the pitch.
Yeah, it was the Man U one, surely.
Yeah, it was his debut.
When he was unbelievable.
Well, it was the day, I could hear him shouting and organizing that back line. And I just remember thinking, like, oh, that's a leader. That's so good. Like, I think that's so needed. And you don't get that with Woodman. And you don't really get it with Darlow. I think Darlow mimics Dubravka in a lot of ways, and I think he tries. But it's just Dubravka just knows how to organize his back line. And I love that. Keith says he's sure he's seen a Nike swoosh on the side of Willock's moon boots. So there you go.
There you go.
It's just
maybe just drop some mayonnaise. Who knows? It's hard to say. It's all conjecture at this point.
Andrew sat next to Adam's dad during the West Ham game.
Oh, can he? I'll have to tell him to watch this back.
That's so nice.
My dad talks more than I do. It's great.
Impossible. Okay. I think that's us. We've done nearly an hour. Thank you guys for sticking with us and watching, and thank you if you're watching after the fact, and thank you if you're just listening to the audio. Last question from Johnny H. Just seeing Rafa in the Everton dugout with Townsend and Rondon playing for them to break your heart like mine. Ben, does your heart?
It does. It's brutal, isn't it? especially when you see how well Townsend's kind of made his start for his own career. It's what we knew he was capable of. Obviously, he'd already done it in with us. I mean, I think that was kind of the most brutal player to leave. I think when obviously we lost kind of I suppose you could say the big three of that squad: Townsend, Sissoko, and Wijnaldum. As good at players as they all are, and they've obviously gone on to bigger and better things. I think Townsend was probably the one that had the biggest impact. And I think if he'd have come back, I think things probably would be quite different. That was kind of the beginning of the end, I think, for Rafa. Obviously, they promised him, and then obviously that deal didn't get done. And then just the round on thing, it's just to rub salt in the wound, isn't it? It's frustrating, but it's where we're at.
I think for me, it's more about Rafa being in a Premier League dugout against us, and having a really good start and having some shrewd signings, doing canny. It's just I miss hearing him talk about the foot because he's such a good communicator. He's such he's a great man, and I could hear him. I could just listen to him talk all day about football, and his knowledge is you're always going to learn something off him. So that's probably the bit I miss most, and it's devastating. So Andrew, he's
just like Andrew and your dad.
Refreshing to talk to someone with that level of knowledge. Yeah, good luck with it. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And I will get my dad to watch this, and I'll make sure that he sees those nice comments. Thank you very much. That's nice
very kind, Andrew. Thank you for watching. Last one to finish. When do you think we'll win a game?
When we least expect it.
Yeah, we'll probably win this weekend at Watford, or we've got Spurs coming up soon. We always beat them these days, so
it's coming. It's coming. Sadly, that might mean that there's a stay of execution for Steve Bruce, but you know what? We need a win. So I'll kind of take it. Thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching after the fact. Thank you for writing your comments if you did. Thanks for asking questions earlier today. We are so grateful. Sorry for the tech issues. Sorry for the madness. We'll be back in a couple of weeks, but sign up to our Patreon platform if you haven't already for previews this week. We've also got Keith Gillespie on with Mark and Norman. We'll have Pete at the Watford game and plenty more coming. So please do sign up if you haven't. And we'll be back at the weekend with a post-Watford free podcast. Take care, everybody.